Hello, and thank you very much for joining in on what is our second workshop of the needs assessment series here in the Greater Miguel. I'm Zachary Meehan tonight, representing our design group, and we've been hired to conduct a needs assessment for the city. What that is, as we go through, it's a roadmap for the future. And this roadmap will help us identify different recreation programs, parks, and facilities that might be needed within the community as we move forward into the future. We want to find out what you think about this. So the whole part of our workshop series here is really to listen to the community voice, your thoughts and your ideas on what you want to see in terms of parks and recreation. This document that we'll develop will actually be the roadmap, the guide and implementation tool for the community as we move forward into the future of parks and recreation. This process is going to be broken down into 4 parts. An existing inventory resource. We go out and look at all of the park facilities and we start to identify everything that we see so that way when we hear your voice, we'll know what you're talking about. The next stage that we're currently in right now is the extensive community engagement. And what that is it's part of our workshop series here, but also a multimodal phone survey, stakeholder interviews. This is the most critical part of the process, is to listen. We listen to everybody and anybody throughout the process to make sure we're accurately getting the community voice. Towards the end of it, what we'll do is we'll, on stage 3, we'll collect everything, we'll review everything, look for those common threads. And in our needs assessment, we'll actually identify and analyze what the community is looking for, what they need and what they want. And then the final element of the process will be the recommendation section. And that will help set the identified goals and objectives for the future of Parks and Recreation here in Greater Miguel. With that, here's our timeline. We're right in the middle. Our projected timeline right now to complete this process is towards the end of the year, in December. We're right in the middle of workshop number 2, right by that star you can see there. We'll have 3 virtual town hall workshops, similar to tonight, throughout this process. This is the second of the 3. We'll have 1 more workshop down the road in the future. And what we're doing in terms of this extensive community outreach engagement is reaching out to stakeholders, interviewing key community leaders, going through sports organization questionnaires, talking with the sports organizations, the sport leagues, finding out how many players they have, what facilities they need. Then we go through a statistically valid survey, which is our multimodal phone survey. It's through phone, text, online, email, every way we can, we go out to the community. So that way we can hear as many community members as possible. And then our workshop series, 3 virtual town hall workshops. Our first one was in September 8th, tonight, October 9th. And then November 6th will be our 3rd one. And I encourage everybody to come out to them as they're both live in person, the facility as well as online. Now, if you're seeing this as a recording, this workshop series will also be posted to the website and live there for the life of the project. During the workshop series, there will be online live surveys. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to take that survey. Again, if you're seeing this as a recording, you can always hit the feedback button on the website and we'll still collect information all the way to the end of December. And then finally, the project website and social media comments. Any way you feel that you want to respond to us, whether it's through social media or online feedback, we want to hear it. This is the most critical part of the entire process that I had mentioned. So tonight's outreach process here, workshop number 2, as you can see right there, we're getting close to the end of the community outreach, but that doesn't mean it's going to conclude rapidly. We want to make sure we take our time and go through every step of the way to hear as many people as we can. Now, what we've heard so far, I'm going to share a little bit with you, the community, and those in the live studio audience today, what we've heard and what we've seen. To date, we have almost 800 website views, which is a tremendous amount. People have gone through the project website and seen what this is about. 667 of those are unique views. So we've got a lot of return visitors also coming into the website. We have 16 feedback surveys. We also have 15 stakeholder interviews. 122 respondents to our first workshop, which is tremendous. And then 842 respondents to our online multimodal survey. This information is great. And I want to share here the first workshop that we had conducted. We had 122 total surveys completed. One of the things we look for is the geographic distribution. Not just the demographic distribution, but you can see here the map behind me has quite a bit of blue on it, and that's everybody we've heard throughout the community. This is a great distribution. This tells me that we're getting to people all across the community, not just in one area or another, but the entire community itself. Then we tie this back to the demographics as well too. What did we hear in each one of these areas? This helps us strategically develop the recommendations. If we hear a concept in one area of the community over and over, it helps us land those recommendations strategically throughout the community. I want to share with you some of those things that we heard in this first workshop. And what we heard as we went through it, the first question of that evening on that survey was, what are the great community characteristics that make Laguna Niguel a great place to live, work, and play? And what we heard from all of those community members, the participants, were safety. These are our visual graphic representations of data. That safety came up as one of the #1 items. We also heard cleanliness, parks, beautiful, and open space as some of the top elements there. So getting those key community characteristics of, and if I just read them in order, safe, clean parks and beautiful open space, really starting to set the tone of this wonderful community that we live in here and what people want to preserve as we move through this process. I know to look at some of these elements specifically and make sure we're preserving and investing in them. Second question that we asked during that workshop series were, what are some of the issues that might be negatively impacting some of those wonderful characteristics that make Laguna Niguel a great place to live, work, and play? And what we heard was unsafe. Obviously, safety being one of the most important elements of what makes Laguna Niguel a beautiful place to live, work, and play. That this item here doesn't mean that it's unsafe now, but it means, as we read through all of the data and all the responses, the community wants to preserve it. That it's always has to be one of the top items that people want to keep in their minds. So an issue that could impact those things is potential unsafety. Parks, making sure that the parks and playgrounds are up to date and that they're clean and repaired. There's an issue with homelessness. Talking about playgrounds and facilities, making sure that they're updated, that they don't fall behind in age as the time goes on. These are some of the negative issues that might be impacting those great community characteristics. The last question we asked at that workshop one was, what role can Parks and Recreation play in addressing those issues? Well, what we heard very clearly was that safety. Let's keep that #1. Making sure our facilities are safe and clean for our community. Maintenance came up with another element there for the evening in workshop 1 series, excuse me. And we found that the maintenance was another element people really wanted to preserve. Making sure Parks and Recreation kept that maintenance standard high. You're going to see a little bit more about that as we go through the multimodal home survey, is ensuring the maintenance, quality, and cleanliness and safety are always the top elements. Events and parks, programs for children, and enforcing some laws also came up as we went through the evening of what Parks and Recreation can do to preserve those great community characteristics. So we'll watch each one of these elements as we go through the next several workshop series and we start to go a little bit deeper into some of these questions. And we want to make sure that we preserve those great community characteristics so that our ultimate recommendations flow directly out of these elements the community is looking for, they're concerned that might impact those great community elements, and then how we can utilize Parks and Recreation to preserve our great community here. The second element that we're going to share tonight really is the multimodal survey results. And what you can see here, again, look at that geographic distribution. We've got a great distribution all across the community. This time we had 842 respondents to the survey. And I'm going to share just a couple of those top responses now. Well, what we do is we look at this online survey responses, the workshop information, and then the multimodal phone information. We see what are those common threads. Where is the intersection where people have the same ideas, and where are they located? So that way we can provide recommendations surgical to the community. Some of those responses that we had on that survey were 75% of the participants get their recreation programs and service information online via the city website or Google. This is important to know when we look at promoting things. If we look at promoting the project website, promoting events throughout the community, you can see where people are getting most of their information. We want to target that audience so we can reach as many people as possible. 80% visit a park or open space at least monthly. This is a large group of people. That tells me that this community is very, very much a heavy recreation outdoors community. And you can see that through the parks and trails. Everybody loves to be outside here at Laguna Niguel. It is truly a beautiful community. When we asked what was one of the most often used parks, we heard 28% of the respondents said that the Laguna Niguel Regional Park was most often used. So we're going to look at that park. What were the amenities that drew people out? Is it the open space? What are the elements that are there? We want to know so that way we can make sure that it might be in line with some of the other respondents, and that we provide for the entire community with all the needs in mind. The last item here, 91% of the respondents said they were satisfied with the city's existing maintenance of parks, open space, areas and recreation facilities. This is tremendous. One of the higher numbers I've seen across all the many years I've done parks and recreation master planning and needs assessments. And I look at that number and I think to myself, okay, online workshop 1, everybody really liked that cleanliness. That was one of the main things, is the safety, keeping the parks clean. And here, making sure that Parks and Recreation is continuing to make sure that maintenance standard is set high. So we're achieving that. What I see here for this early onset of the community information, we're achieving that great level that the community wants to see. Now they want to make sure that it's preserved. We continue to promote Parks and Recreation and keep that maintenance satisfaction high. Tonight is our second workshop, so I'm going to ask another series of questions. We're going to go into a little bit more deeper information. We'll have tonight's presentation, and then for 2 weeks, we're actually going to have the survey online available, and then we're going to collect the survey responses and promote the information back on the website. Now, if you're seeing this as a recording on the project website, you can still take part. There's a feedback button on the project website that you can click on and provide feedback all the way through December. We want to make sure we hear everybody's voice as we go through this process. Now, here's a QR code for those in our live studio audience or at home. I'll also share the link with you. The questions that we're going to ask on this one are going to be based on what park do you go to and why? What are some of your preferred facilities now or in the future, as well as programs now and in the future? We want to make sure that we hear your voice through the whole process. And again, I can't promote enough the feedback button. Even if there's a question on one of our surveys that you feel wasn't asked, or if we're missing something and you want to let us know, hit that feedback button. It's an open-ended feedback button. You can share with us anything you want within a paragraph of what you want to share, what you want to see, or what questions you might want asked and answered. And we'll make sure we get back to everybody as much as we can throughout this process. So I would encourage everybody tonight, as we launch online series 2, to please go take the survey. It's going to be open tonight all the way through October 23rd, as well as visit the project website. Please click, share, and tell your friends and family and residents about it so we get more and more feedback. The more feedback we get, the better this project turns out. I really appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing you in the future.